It's another bright morning in Trinidad, and Hikeman KI, with his companions, set off for another adventure. This time, the team includes Imsha, the brilliant strategist and Merlin of the group, Hayden, the Aquaman whose knowledge runs as deep as the oceans, and Clifford, returning to the fold, the heart specialist, with a calm presence and sharp insight. Their starting point? The familiar Hilo at Westmall, a humble yet strategic location for the journey that lies ahead. Sound of footsteps echoing in unison as they walk. The group moves at a steady pace, chatting lightly as they follow the trail toward Fort George, the historic fort perched on the hills overlooking the Gulf of Paria. Their route today will take them through nature's corridor, lush with green, the air rich with the scent of damp earth, and the distant call of birds. It's not just a physical journey, but an intellectual one as well. Sound fades to soft ambient noises as the conversation between Imsha and Hayden begins. You know, it's fascinating how Trinidad, this tiny island, was a pawn in the larger game of European empires. The Spanish ruled for centuries, but it all changed so swiftly when the English fleet arrived. Hayden. Yeah, February 1797, wasn't it? The Spanish were pretty much outmatched. They only had, maybe 3 ships left to defend the island? Exactly, 3 vessels against the might of the British Navy. Trinidad's fate was sealed the moment that fleet arrived. The Spanish governor, Chacon, he saw what was coming. A fight would have been futile, and so, without much bloodshed, he surrendered. And that's how Trinidad went from Spanish to British hands in a single stroke. As the conversation continues, the trail beneath their feet starts to incline slightly, the path winding upwards as they ascend toward the historic Fort George. The air grows cooler and the foliage thickens, almost as if they're walking back in time, traversing not just miles, but centuries. Soft sound of birds and distant wind blowing. Hayden. But what about the people who lived here before, the Amerindians? Their history's often overshadowed by these European conquests. True. The Amerindians, the first peoples, were here long before Columbus stumbled onto these shores. But their fate was tragic. Disease, conflict, and enslavement. It wiped out most of them. The few that remained were marginalized, their culture and way of life decimated. Clifford, softly, with concern. It's heartbreaking, really. How entire communities can just vanish, and all we're left with are fragments of their stories. The mood among the group grows somber, the weight of history settling over them as they continue their hike. It's easy to forget sometimes that beneath every trail they walk lies a past full of untold stories. Stories of those who lived, fought, and died here. The rocks and trees, the very ground beneath them, all bear silent witness to the passage of time and the changing of empires. Sound of distant footsteps on gravel as they near the summit. As the group reaches a clearing, the majestic view of the Gulf of Paria opens up before them. They pause, taking in the sight. Fort George isn't far now, its stone walls and cannons standing as a testament to Trinidad's colonial past. It's a place where history seems to come alive, where the echoes of old battles and strategic discussions still linger in the air. Hayden, you know, it's strange to think that all of this island, these hills, were once fiercely contested by European powers. And now, here we are, just 4 friends on a hike, talking about it. History has a way of putting things in perspective, doesn't it? What once seemed like the center of the world stage is now just a footnote in a larger story. The hike to Fort George isn't just about exercise or exploration. It's about connecting with the past, understanding the layers of history that have shaped this island. For Hikeman KI and his companions, each step is a reminder that the world is constantly changing, and that they are merely travelers passing through this moment in time. Sound of the wind picking up slightly as they arrive at Fort George. As they reach the old fort, the group falls silent for a moment, standing in the shadow of history. The cannons, long silenced, point toward the sea, a reminder of the battles that were never fought, the wars that were avoided by diplomacy or sheer circumstance. Clifford, it's amazing how much has happened on this tiny piece of land. So much history, and yet we're still here, walking the same paths.